Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, you're awake. Good. One of the things the pandemic has shown us is that we're very good at telling people what to do. We're told space, masks, loads of things. And one of the things we've noticed, people who tell us what to do can break the rules. And how frustrated we get when we see that, to be told we must do something and seeing someone not do it. And a few years ago, I decided to ask myself, what are the important aspects of being a Christian? And there were three main components: the Bible, prayer, and church. And I decided, rather than say, you must do these things, ask myself why I, Wayne Manship, do those things. I'm going to think about why I go to church. And what I want you to do is just ask yourself, does it make sense? If it makes sense for me, then it should be something you might consider doing in the future. And the very fact that I'm here shows you I actually go. So I'm not standing in my house saying, you must go to church, and you're looking at me going, but well, you're home. So how you can tell me what to do? And that's true for us, isn't it? We don't like being told what to do by someone who doesn't do it. And the very fact I'm here answers that. So why do I, Wayne Manship, go to church? I'm going to have a few Bible quotations, not many. By all means, if you want to sit and listen, you can. Sleep is not an option. Those on Zoom, I got no control over. And I said, I'm a follower of Jesus. And what did Jesus do? Luke chapter 6, I'm using the New King James Version. And as I said, Jesus is the person I profess to follow. And what does he show me in terms about this concept of doing something? And we read in Luke chapter 6, and verse 12. Now it came to pass in those days, he went out to a mountain to pray and continued all night in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples to himself, and from those he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. And we have the names of the 12. Well, I want to just think about, for me, here is a man who is the founder of Christianity. As the Son of God, he had abilities I don't possess. And other people would have said from here how great this man is. And if ever there was an individual that could say, I don't need anyone, or I'm capable in my own ability, I don't need help, was Jesus. But what did Jesus have? He had these 12 men to be with him. And I say to myself, if Jesus felt he needed support, who am I to say I can do it by myself? I don't need anyone. And notice what we have. We have a church. A church is not a building we're standing in. It's people we're with. So the question I ask myself, why do I need people, is actually really important, because Jesus did. So if I profess to be a Christian and a follower of this man, how can I then say I don't need other men when he did? Is my first challenge. The second one, we're going back to the beginning of time. I'm in Genesis chapter 2. So we've seen Jesus' perspective, that he needed help, followers. And God tells us something. I'm in Genesis 2 and verse 18. At the beginning of time. And the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Now, God, the creator, is saying to Adam, his creation, it's not good to be really no mates, to be on your own. And I accept totally that this has a large part of the human race. The human race could not have expanded if there was just Adam. But is that it? That this is just about the numbers, the population of the human race, that it doesn't apply for anything else. I want to look at that statement. It is not good that man should be alone, and apply it to Jesus. Because he was destined not to marry and not to have children. Not he couldn't physically. It's not what his father wanted. Imagine Jesus marries, has children. He's the Son of God with everything that entails. And his children are part of his upbringing in terms of the physicality. And granddad's God. And he gets really complicated. So Jesus, by destiny, was never to be married physically. So when he reads that and says, it's not good that man should be alone, how did he apply that? And he's applying that, I suggest, is what we read in terms of the followers. I suggest it's a part of our human makeup that we need each other. We're not made to be an island by ourselves. We are made to interact. And that's something I want us to think about. So if we just recap, Jesus needed help, disciples. God tells us it's not healthy to be by yourself. So the Father and the Son are telling us we need one another. We're now going to have the reading I'd like, and it's 1 Corinthians 12, verses 18 to 24. St. John, please.
1 Corinthians chapter 12. You asked me to read from verse 12.
So 12, my mistake.
From verse 12.
12 to 27. It's a bit I'm going to quote. 12 to 27, please.
Starting from verse 12.
Yeah.
For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and have all been made to drink into one Spirit. For in fact, the body is not one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I'm not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I'm not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he pleased. And if they were all one member, where would the body be? But now indeed there are many members, yet one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No, much rather, those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary, and those members of the body which we think to be less honourable, on these we bestow greater honour, and our unpresentable parts have greater modesty. But our presentable parts have no need. But God composed the body, having given greater honour to that part which lacks it. And there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. Or if one member is honoured, all the members rejoice with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and members individually.
Now, we've just read about the body. And what we have been told, I just want to look at verse 18. But God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he is pleased. And verse 24. But our presentable parts have no need, but God has composed the body, having given greater honour to that part which it lacks. So we've been told twice that this body is God made. He's put the body together. Does God ever get it wrong? Now, St. John, you just, well, it's going to be funny on Zoom. Can you just stand where everyone can see you? Because I want to pick your brain and also look at your body. Right. The body you were looking at, what was your occupation?
I was a GP.
Right. So you know something about health. I did say something. Could you survive if I chop your arm off?
I can survive.
Yeah. But would your lifestyle be hindered?
Very much so.
Yeah. If I chopped your arm off without trying to protect it and all the blood, whatever, what would happen to you?
I pass away.
Yeah, you die. Now, we all know that. Paul is not talking about the physical body as such. He's talking about what I'm talking about. The church body, the living body. And as St. John has quite rightly said, yes, he could lose an arm, but his life would be restricted. Just as you could say, yeah, I don't need other people, we can survive. But life is restricted. But equally, as St. John said, he can lose an arm, and if we don't have the help to protect the arm, he's going to die. Now, here's the strange thing, thank you, St. John. Human beings, you and I, will accept the concept humanly, but when it comes to that actual idea of meeting other people, we're frightened. You see, if you want to know about the Bible, if you want to know about the Christadelphians, you can just go online. And all the information is there. Who we are, what we believe, and you don't have to get out to your room. Is that what Christianity is about? Just knowing information? Or is it about something else? And when St. John read that section by Paul about the body, he was telling us a body is only a body if it's living. If it's not living, it's a corpse. It's just something you could see for an amount of time. But a living body, which is active, needs components. And those components God has put together. And I suggest that what he's talking about is what a church is. Components put together. And the challenge I ask myself, and you've got to ask, does it make sense? Is God wrong? Is Jesus wrong that he needed help? Is God wrong saying it's not good that we are on our own? And is God wrong by putting the body together and saying you need each other? Ecclesiastes chapter 4 in the Old Testament. And a bit of practical advice and a couple of stories. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 to 11. And we're told, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift him up. So he lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can they be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Interesting there, the last statement. Two are better than, so one may be overpowered by another, or two can withstand him. Have you ever noticed bullies go around in gangs? You never see a bully without backup. Why? They're bullies. And here's the really stupid thing. The bully of probably low intelligence has sussed out he needs help. So do you need help when it comes to knowing God and his son? I want to tell you something that happened to me when I was 15. And I can actually name drop. You know Andrew Pritchard? Right? Him, myself, and another friend of mine, Mark Williams, all grew up in Newport. And once a month, we used to go walking with the South Wales youth group. Kids don't do walking anymore, but that's another issue. And I can remember going on this walk, and I was with those two, and we were talking football. And we were walking along this cliffside, and I lost my balance. True story. I started to fall, and both of them grabbed me and kept me up. I carried on talking football. We got to where we had to go, sat down for so long, and we were told, right, let's walk back. As we're walking back, we got to the part where I lost my balance. And one of us, I can't remember who, said, let's have a look where Wayne would have fallen. We're thinking it's like a little small, and we were on the side of a mountain. And I could have done serious damage if I slipped and wasn't held up. Years later, when I read this, my mind went back to that moment. And how true it is, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labour. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls. I often think back, imagine if I was walking either slightly ahead or slightly behind those two, and I was walking alone. And I still slipped. My life could have been totally different. It may well have ended. And it just reminds me that I need other people to be with me, to keep me on the straight and narrow. And the other thing we're told here, again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. I want to tell you something about me. I snore loudly. Right? I'm usually asleep at the time, so it doesn't really affect me. But I can remember going on a camp, and I was told in no uncertain terms, you are not going in the tent where other people are, boys these are. You've got your own little tent because they want to sleep. So there it was, my little tent. Next door to that was a tent with about 8 or 9 lads in. And let me tell you something, I froze. It was around about September time, and I froze. Most of my mates were in the other tent, were cold. But the heat of the collective made it warmer than me, the individual. So when I read this statement about keeping warm, I went, yes, I can relate to that. And what these two incidents remind me is the power of the collective, the power of the group. That a group is always stronger than the individual. So who am I claiming to be a follower of Jesus, a Christian, and I'm saying I don't want to be part of the group. I want to be the individual. And I want to finish off Hebrews chapter 10. I'm going to use the NIV for this. And I'm reading verses 24 and 25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. I have a friend of mine who did the London Marathon. He's done it a few times. And I asked him how important the crowd was in getting round the course. And he said, really important, spurring you on. And I saw him a few years later after he'd done the marathons. And I was speaking in a church doing this exactly the same talk, aware of him being in the audience. And I mentioned about the crowd spurring him on and how important the crowd was. And he put his hand up and said, can I say something? By all means. And on his last marathon, as someone who was very competitive, he pushed himself to the limit. And we've heard the statement, the pain barrier, where you hit the wall, where you think you can't go any further. And he said he pushed himself so hard, he thought he was going to be ill. And he started to wobble, and his legs started to go. He said previous marathons, he was aware of the crowd. He could hear the shouting, But what the crowd did this time, where you have the number, you also have your name. And they were shouting, number 77, come on, John, come on, John, his name. He said they quite literally picked him up and helped him through the pain barrier. Now, those of you who are interested in sport, if you're a footballer, I've never seen the crowd score a goal. I've never seen the crowd score a try. It wouldn't be allowed. But how many times do we hear teams say they were the extra goal, or they were the 12th man, or they were the difference? Now, that has nothing to do with religion or Christianity, but we all go, yes, I understand what you're saying. And it just reminds me of what we've just read, what we're thinking about. Can we do life alone? And can you do Christianity alone? Now, for me, I need help. I need other people to do this, to spur me on, encourage me, to help me. That's why I belong to a church. Does it make sense?